Hi, I'm Frank Chapman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Ohio Gastroenterology Group.
And I'm Joe Vicari, partner and former managing partner of Rockford Gastroenterology Associates in Rockford, Illinois.
And we're here today to talk about how different practices use the results of the ASGE Endoscopic Operations Survey. In my group, we have 4 different ASCs, and we've used the Endoscopic Operations Survey to identify variation between the different ASCs for internal benchmarking. As an example, if you look at clinical labor, we have a significant variation in clinical labor between all of our ASCs. That's explained in terms of senior nursing staff being clustered in one of the ASCs versus the others, but it's something that we really weren't aware of before we began the survey. It's also interesting to look at our own data in terms of repair cost against each other, and also especially important to look at the variation in devices, endoscopic devices such as clips, and its use between different of our ASCs. We believe that that is associated primarily with a cluster of physicians who might work at one versus another, but it can be a very significant variation in cost. Joe?
We've looked at the operations survey as kind of the operations version of GIQuick. We now have something to use in our endoscopy center that provides many different metrics based on good data to help us with problems as they arise. We can use this to see how we stack up against others. Are we doing better? Do we need improvement? How do we operate compared to other practices that are similar to us in the region and across the country? And recently, we had an opportunity to put it to use. Our endoscopic repair company repeatedly over the last year or so has told us that we need more scopes and that the repair costs are high. So our clinical nurse manager went to the operations survey, drilled down into the data, and felt that after reviewing regional colleagues and national colleagues, that actually we have more than enough upper endoscopes and colonoscopes, and that our costs are not only respectable, but very acceptable.
The comparison between GIQuick and the ASGE Endoscopic Operations Survey is an interesting one. GIQuick provides not just outcome data, but it also has a defined set of metrics that any physician can be measured against. In the ASGE Operations Survey, what we've done is we've developed similar metrics, but for operational purposes, so that once you have these metrics defined, it's easy to go ahead and compare your operation against the operation of almost any other different type of setting.
As we continue to see a healthcare environment from a financial and reimbursement perspective that's complicated and constantly changing, I think this survey allows us to have our own operations quality project to see how efficient we can be and combine this efficiency to make sure we're delivering safe and efficient care for the patients as they move through our facility, and pair that with our quality data through GIQuick.
Joe, what was the most interesting or surprising data point that came out of the survey for you?
I don't know if this is specifically a data metric, but the actual volume of patient experience that we were able to get. So I guess it was the participation across the different regions that led to having such a large volume of data points that we can use. And I think that makes it more robust and in a way validates the project. And then the different topics that you can look at within the database. I think the survey can really help to answer many questions that you will have, both comparing again to regional colleagues and national colleagues.
For me, the most surprising metrics came out of the comparison between the different settings. We actually had units provide data both for office endoscopy, ASC endoscopy, joint ventures, and hospital. And it's interesting how some of those data points began to approximate each other. If you look at such things as device cost, very similar across settings. But if you look at the nature of clinical labor, it's much higher in hospitals, probably due to specific requirements. Also, one thing that we looked at that we had not been able to look at in the past are staffing in terms of advanced procedures in hospitals. So every year we tend to add additional data, additional questions, and get more information every year that's more and more interesting. So.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. Once a month we have what we call a joint GI meeting. It's between our group, Rockford Gastroenterology, and we are a single specialty GI practice that has one endoscopy center. And it's a day when both hospitals that we go to, their GI lab managers come over, and there's a little bit of QA, but there's also operations. So we have begun to start to drill down to some of the data, and wherever they can find it useful, they have found it to be helpful. And as you point out, there are some areas that diverge, but it's also a good way we can continue to build our relationships with the hospitals and build some collegiality with hospitals that we've had a very good and long working relationship with.
Well, thank you, Joe. That's been very helpful.